Good evening. Welcome to the Q&A for Antlers. Antlers is the story of a group of friends who are all stuck in some way or another in their lives and are visited by a deity of some kind that comes down from the mountains and plays puppet master with their lives. It's a 7-part web series available on YouTube. If you search John Strelec or Antlers, I'm sure you could find it. As a bit of background information, it was shot in early 2016 and was originally intended to be a feature film. It followed a circuitous route through circumstances out of one's control, especially having no money for a budget. It became a web series and is being released in April of 2021 as such. So without further ado, here's the Q&A. We genuinely hope you enjoy all the hard work we put into this project. We all have many more projects to come, so please stick around in any way you find suitable. It is a small world these days, technologically speaking. And that's it. So, on we go.
Oh, John Carroll. John Carroll's got to get up with the times, man.
No, he. It doesn't matter. Abbott and Costello are the main reason you're watching that movie. But, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, welcome to the Antlers Q&A. This is a Q&A designed to gather people who were part of a big journey in 2016 to film an independent feature film that has taken a vastly new direction, and the journey that Antlers has been on has been an astounding one for anybody who's trying to be creating your art in a very difficult financial time, pandemic or no pandemic. It is very hard to create your dreams, and John was able to set the tone for a lot of us to start filming our dreams. And I've got with me here not just John Strelec, but we also have Abella Bala, one of our leads in the movie, and we have the inimitable Spencer Kane, who I'm not. This is not to call him out. This is his first Skype convo. we got him on the virtual sphere, as it were. So we're gonna kick.
And this is Zach Eastman.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me. Whatever. Anyway, John, we're gonna start with you though, because you had the brainchild here. Now you need to tell us how this child was conceived and how it ended up being delivered. How did this story come about?
Well, okay. It came about out of thinking about what could be made for nothing, and I was trying to. I wrote a couple of different the projects that wouldn't work in that way, and so I thought since Zach, I don't think you were involved, but since Spencer and Abella and I were all involved in Wash Park, I was thinking, I could make another Wash Park kind of thing, but then maybe try and make the stories all go throughout it, because that was kind of an anthology.
Yeah.
And so I had it went through a lot of iterations. It was kind of like, it was supposed to be like Wash Park was Wash Park in that thing, and then this one was going to be like Capitol Hill. I was going to call it that for like a second, like Cap Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Have it just be about that neighborhood. And,
yep.
And I think there was going to be like a storyline where someone was going to try to steal the gold from the Capitol building roof.
Like from the top of it?
Yeah.
Is that real gold? Do we know?
Yeah, it is. It is real gold.
Oh,
Stop it. Let's go make that movie and actually steal it. I love this plan.
This is first time information for me, John. You're saying we could have made a heist movie?
We could have made a heist movie. I don't know. In my mind, when I was writing that, I was like, yeah, we could film this. We'll be able to. We'll just go up there.
Oh my god.
I don't know what I was thinking. So it evolved quite a bit, and then I was staying in. My dad was living in a motor, like an RV at the time. Well, he had just moved out of an RV, so I went and stayed in this RV in the woods, and I was trying to write and finish this thing, and this deer kept coming up to me, and then I was watching a lot of Miyazaki movies, like Totoro and stuff like that, Porco Rosso.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, oh, what if there's like just a guy with antlers? I don't know. I just thought about that for some reason. This deer kept coming up, and I was like, are you trying to help me? And then it kind of just became what it became, and we shot it.
So, and there's something that I told you after reviewing the film, which now has become the episodes. All these years later, is that there's an infusion of, to me, a little bit of the Coen brothers in the sense of cementing some real realities for these mid-20s kids here, and then also kind of injecting a bit of the karmic style of something coming back to kick them around, or something that leads them into the journey they need to go on to succeed. I think Ham's character, obviously, of Antlers, kind of portrays kind of like that overarching, like, little interfering force that you can see in some of their films. But I wouldn't want to presuppose that you took inspiration from them. But what beyond Hayao Miyazaki, was there anything that inspired you with the story, whether in writing it or in filming it in specifics? Because there's a distinct, like, little vibe to it, but I wouldn't call it like a mumblecore at all. Very, very deliberate.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I feel like all those people inspired me to a great extent. You know, I mean, the Coen brothers very, very inspiring, and mumblecore and everything. I feel like at that time, it being like 5 years ago, I wasn't able to actualize on these inspirations that well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of just like, you know, like I feel like I didn't think to mimic them, like, shot wise, you know. I wasn't thinking, like, it was like, what shot can we get in this place that we're at for the next couple hours? Like, what's just gonna look nice? And I wasn't thinking, like, I think yeah, because of the nature of the movie, I was just trying to get it done.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, I was like trying to get it done.
But you were not, but also, like, with that answer, it makes a lot of sense that you're not, like, you're not applying any practical knowledge to get to reflect something you've seen. You are going off of your intuitiveness, which does come from years of watching movies and studying them in your own way. So you've already have the intuitive imagination to get that thing done. And I think that
if not the skill, I have the imagination.
Yes, you do. Which is
I'm observing something really interesting in this. I'd love to share with you guys if there's space for it.
Sure.
I feel like this whole process, you know, I remember meeting with you. You're saying it's 5 years ago. To me, it feels like longer, but it is 5 years ago. Was it not 6?
It was 2016.
When the hell?
Yeah, 2016.
It was the beginning of 2016.
5 years. 5 years. Yeah. Wow. 2016. Oh, early. Yep. Okay.
But we were prepping it at the end of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we met in 2015. Like, I remember meeting with you when you were still kind of doing rewrites on the script, and chatting with you about it. And it's so interesting, like, the process that this has taken, because I think, you know, it's so interesting to do a Q&A on a film that you did so many years ago and be able to speak to like the creative process, like that you had to go on to bring it to fruition, you know, especially when we were so young. People don't talk about this stuff. People don't like share the creative process that doesn't always work the way that you anticipate it's going to work. And I think that that's almost more of value, because people make it seem like, you know, like these filmmakers that we respect and admire, like they just set out to do this thing and then they did it and that's the end of the story. Like it's like, no, like there were a lot of films like this along the way that you think it's going to be one thing, you get in there, you do it, whatever, some shit works, some does not work, and then it's like 5 years later you repackage it in a way that you maybe didn't even anticipate it could be, and now it's a new thing, and now we're talking about it. Who we were 5 years ago and reflecting back on it, look kind of, you know, having our cringy moments with it where we're like, ooh, like could have done that better, like whatever. It's really fascinating. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's
You're absolutely right, Abella, because it doesn't. I'm kind of tired of always hearing about the triumphant stories myself, because it doesn't give me a practical grounding to begin off of. Like it sets the bar way too high, and you need to understand that people are human. These heroes that John and I worship from filmmaking point of view are not like gods. Like they're humans like anybody else, and they have their own stumbling points as well as their successes, which is more valuable for a young film student, I feel, now than looking at, you know, the triumph of, you know, like, I mean, I like Kevin Smith films, but watching the triumph of Kevin Smith, it's like, I'd love to know where you started in the beginning and where you stumbled a little bit. So
it's great because it's like it's a more universal story, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, where, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's relatable too. It's like one of those things where it's like you, I mean, I don't know. That is, to me, I think that what we went through as a creative process is part of the art. I think that's what's so interesting about filmmaking, is that so much of it is this kind of process of experimentation, and that also in and of itself, if someone were to film that, that's art, you know? And it's like so fascinating. And I love that about you, John, because you have such like a, your artistic mind doesn't limit itself to only film. Like you see things in different formats, and like what you introduced with Antlers, with like the drawing element at the beginning, like the drawings and like the what are you calling that, the last week kind of portion?
Oh, the recap. Yeah,
it's so interesting. It adds a whole nother element to it, and I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. You remember you did those on the Instagram too? I have that on my profile picture for you.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thanks for that perspective, Abella. That's awesome. That's some. What do you think about that, Spencer?
I think that's awesome, dude. And you're right. It does add super elements to her. You know, because I saw it back in California when I came and visited that one time for like 3 weeks. And yeah, I couldn't have foreseen that kind of, you know, making it that much better with those breakdowns like that, or the recaps.
It's been such a long story of like making it, you know.
Yeah,
it's like it's crazy. It's crazy.
I have a question about the Antlers thing that you were talking about, because you said your first inspiration was like this deer that came up, and it was like, is this deer trying to help me? Like, what's up with this deer, you know? And then that turned into a story, that turned into a film and a project that's spanned out up until now, right? And now it's kind of at this finished point. The story will probably continue as you like continue to internalize like what you learned from it. But I'm so curious, like after you look at all of that, was that deer trying to help you?
Wow. John, you were blessed by a magic Disney deer.
I was Snow White for a second there.
Go on there, John. Make it happen.
I believe it. I mean, I believe it. I don't know if it's you know, I don't need to know if it's true or not, but like it feels true. I like the feeling of it.
Yeah.
It felt like it.
I want that I want that cemented in the legacy years later when they're doing the John Strelec retrospective. They're like, a magic deer visited me one day. Made a movie about that. See, Bella was just talking about the fact that we need to hear the stumbling points. I'm like, no. Now we just need to cement the legend now, here, today.
If you go, spend some time in an RV and get visited by a deer, you too can spend 5 years making feature film that turns into a web series.
just like George Lucas.
It's like John's gonna have a master class pretty soon. That's gonna be like, want to learn how to make a movie that turns into a web series in 5 years? Let me show you.
Want to learn how to spend 5 years working on 70 minutes of story?
The first portion of it turns out how to be how to live the life of nomad land. Living off of the RV land.
It's true.
And so, John, I did want to ask one more question before we kind of go into a broader scope, because I know we're going to hand it off from me to you.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, watching you work and getting something done on such a small budget, because I wasn't part of Wash Park, but I know I visited 1 or 2 times on the set, and watching you work here on Antlers was very, very inspiring, because you were very, very aware that you were attempting something a larger than what we had tried to do in film school. And what you ended up pulling out of it was a very, very inspiring collaboration of a bunch of talents to be able to get something that works on a basic level for a basic budget, while still being able to find some creative flourishes to it, because there's a lot of imaginative things happening in this film that don't require any effects budget, anything spectacular that requires a crap ton of money. I wanted to know, from the director's perspective, how did you, was there any stress that you had to manage, or was there any difficulties on your end with the making of the film?
Yes.
More than enough said.
Oh yeah. No, it was very stressful. It was a 16-day shoot, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we had we had all these locations and all these people, and it was just me and Andrew Jones and like the cast
Mm-hmm.
and Connor Birch doing sound. So it was like I had to, like, scheduling, storyboard and shot listing, do all the pre-pro on this, essentially kind of by myself, and then the whole thing was just, it was ridiculous, but it was so exciting that it was worth the stress. It was like a fun stress. It was like watching the pieces come together and everything, and like all the stressful stuff of pre-production being like, oh, I don't, like, are we going to be able to fit this in? Are we going to be able to do this? And
I remember more than one conversation about things we needed to move around or cut, and then kind of.
I remember watching John handle the stress beautifully. Like, it was so interesting. You are such a funny person when you're stressed out, because like I can sense that you're like you have this thing that you're feeling, but you have this smile on your face. You're kind of like in the space of wonderment, and you're just kind of, I can see the wheels working. Like, there's a lot, like, you ride that wave really well. It was really like, I enjoyed watching you handle the stress the way that you did. So
yeah,
thank you.
I remember you being very, very patient with any incessant questions that I had, because this was a whole different experience for me. So then you were. Bella's right, that smile also, but also like patting me on the shoulder, going like, "You're gonna do fine," and just walking away.
And then so many moments that like we didn't know something, or something wasn't quite working, and instead of like freaking out or anything, like I could tell you didn't know what the next steps were gonna be, but you were like, you know what? If I like sit with this for a second, something's gonna emerge, and it always did. It was like you were comfortable with the uncertainty of the process, not always needing to know. And I think that's part of like the magic of being creative, is like, you can plan, and you can, especially with filmmaking, right? It's like you can plan and you can do all that till the cows come home, but once you get on set, especially when you have no budget and no, it's like it's anyone's guess what's going to happen, and you have to learn how to reframe that and use that in your advantage. Like, That's a skill, man. I really respected that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's either when you're there, it's either freak out and the whole thing kind of finishes, it's over, or just wait until you figure it out. So I wanted to finish it so bad that it was like, well, not gonna let reality stop me. Like, why would you do that? Reality has stopped me in so many things.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a great learning experience, to kind of put myself and put all of you through it, and also to have like all of you to like lean on and be there. It was like I was smiling because you were smiling, and it was like you guys were all like, you would show up every day and you're so excited and so creative, and it was just like it was like a movie, and it was like we were making something. It was so fun, and we had these problems that we could solve, and we just like talk it out and be like, okay, what are we gonna do over here, and like kind of rehearsing on set. And it was just like, I mean, no matter what's going wrong, it's like there's so much going right that how could you not just kind of rejoice and continue these ridiculous 16-hour days where you're eating.
They were not that long, sir.
They weren't? Okay.
They weren't that long for John, not for us. So.
Oh yeah. No, he has to live with it when he goes to bed.
Why didn't you go in the store? We were just at the store.
Why are you always second guessing me, man?
What, you're gonna go pee in an alley?
Yes, I'm gonna go pee in an alley. I didn't have to go to the store. Now I have to. Christ, dude, you just take the dog, I'll be right back.
I'm just saying, you could have gone at the store.
I see what you're saying, but the situation's different now.
We could even go back to the store.
Really, dude?
You're right, my bad.
Okay, so I'd like to talk to you guys about your experiences with this. Let's start with Zach. Why not? How did you get involved in this project, and what was your initial reactions to the script and the character that you play?
Yeah. So I've been fairly open about it that at the time that this was coming to fruition, I was in and out of sobriety, and I was coming back from California to Colorado, and Maddie O'Connor, our mutual friend, told me about this and said to hit you up to help out as a producer. And I was feeling confident that I was going to be able to, keep myself clean and whatnot. But that ended up not happening. I ended up going back to weed and then eventually sneaking booze around. But it's not a bigger part of it. But when I first met up with you, you presented the script and I told you what I would be able to help you out with to the best of my ability. And then I read the script, and there was something about the Lloyd character that stuck out to me. I wasn't planning to act initially, but for whatever reason, I got a bug under my butt to be like, you know what, try asking the question, can I play Lloyd? Because the Lloyd character was virtually me at the time. So I was very much playing into something I was very, very familiar with, like a very, very like sad sack loser kind of character. But what I wanted to bring to it was a knowledge of one of my favorite comedians into the mix, and kind of draw from that same sad sack variety. And so I asked you about playing the character, and you were pretty receptive, if I recall.
Oh, I loved it.
To the whole idea. And so my focus kind of became dual with producer and actor. And I'll be frank, I think I ended up focusing more on the acting than the producing. My efforts with producing on this piece haven't really come to fruition until the last month or so.
Yeah.
With trying to get things organized in here. But the thing that struck me also too was how you were kind of playing into Altman territory with multiple characters, which I thought was very ambitious for a indie filmmaker. And the schedule that we had, I remember like trying to coordinate it with the job that I had at that point, which I was working with Spencer at the same place, and we coordinating our schedules was interesting because I was like looking at how everything was laid out. Because like Bella, I don't think I saw you much on set, but that's because our scenes weren't really together for the most part.
Yeah, I think we only saw each other for one scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been the
Maybe-
it would have been the opening with me coming out and do my foghorn leghorn impression before I come back up and sit down with the guys.
And then the ending.
Yes, in the ending, yes, that's right. Yeah,
because
because
that's all we had
Wow.
too.
yeah,
Sure.
that's what you had. And then
Wow.
and
Well,
I
that's-
actually
yeah.
I did not remember the packing montage. And so I was
know,
looking at
I had a weird
myself. I was
feeling
looking at
when
I
you-
was looking at myself when I was like seeing that in what's to come, and I'm like, geez, like I don't remember this day at all. I remember being at John's place. It's all this place.
It's
That's all I
all a
remember.
fog. It's
Yeah.
all a fog.
Yeah.
I do remember that though. I remember that moment where it became like a possibility that you would play Lloyd, and I remember just like that like being like a eureka moment where it was just like yes, because I think I was having a hard time finding a Lloyd,
Yeah.
you know?
One just dropped into your lap.
and then you playing it was just like it was so perfect in my mind because you do have this sort of inherent kind of sincerity and like sort of vulnerability and this honesty that kind of comes through.
Okay.
And it comes it's there, man. It's
Yeah.
just there.
Well,
And
I-
it was just doing like a read through, doing rehearsals with you. It just became like abundantly clear that was the only way it could be.
yeah.
You know.
I remember like I do remember looking at the character and kind of getting the vibe of like the I remember like there's like certain characters in comedies that I like where they have this trope, so like Elias in Clerks 2 or Squeaks in Basketball. Like there's something like a character that is just so like just like it's not lower than dirt. It's just like he literally does not know how to function like without creating an excuse for himself. And I can't say that I've like I can't say that I've perfected that art myself per se, but like but looking into the character, it was interesting to kind of exaggerate elements of myself that I saw in myself. So there was like an exaggeration going through there, but there was also like I had to learn comic timing from you a little bit because
I think you had that on your own.
I
Well,
think so too.
but there's a specific moment in one of the episodes that's already been released that I'll like it's my favorite moment in the film that I'm in, because a lot of my favorite moments in the movie are where I'm not in it. But when Zach Gutierrez is stealing the dog from me, that is the one moment where I'm looking at myself on screen going like, oh, I did good. I
You
did
did
good. I did
tried
good.
to
I knew exactly what to do.
Zach, I have a couple questions for you on that. You mentioned that you pulled inspiration from your favorite comedian. Who is that?
It's Jack Benny, the radio and television comedian from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The whole concept of his character is that he is a cheap, vainglorious, sad sack who is the butt of everybody's joke. And his gift was kind of reacting to that. And so I've always been a fan of self-deprecation in a healthy amount. And there was a time in my life where that wasn't the case. And around this time, I was trying to start getting out of that mode, but I was able to kind of draw inspiration from certain moments that Jack Benny's radio show operates on, where he is the butt of the joke, or like people are giving him crap, or calling him out rightfully so on his nonsense. And I was like, I want to play into that as much as I can. And then another element of it was also the Elias character from Clerks 2, in terms of like, Lloyd, the way Lloyd follows Dan around is very much like a battered puppy in a lot of ways. Like, like it just keeps going back. And like, so that was kind of interesting to play into the idea of like following around your friends incessantly, which I'm a jovial person by nature. I do like my time with friends, but I also like my downtime to myself. So it just varies day by day. And so laying into that, like, that attachment with Dan was very, very interesting. Because it's almost like inherently I would not be like chasing after this person like on foot. I'd probably be like, I'll just go home now. Like the whole concept of him calling out constantly, I did that a lot around the time we were filming this. So there was a lot of like true life stuff coming into it, so it was very interesting to play off of that. So combining all those elements, I tried to do what I could.
I really loved like the arc that your character went through, and I don't know if this episode has been released yet. I don't think it has, but it's the episode.
Let's just assume they all have.
Okay, great.
This is like a future thing.
The episode with okay, got you. Yes. The episode with you in the car where you have like that moment of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like it all at that moment, like your whole character made sense to me. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it's so relatable. Like what you're talking about with, the inspiration that you pulled from your comedian, your favorite comedian, is that like, it's those moments, like there's comics. So I do comedy as well. And what I've noticed in doing stand up and exploring like what works and what doesn't work, it's like the thing that works for me the most. I'm not a fan of self-depreciation necessarily, but there is a level of it that is honest, because we all feel like that. Like that's the thing, that makes us compelled. It's like we've all felt that feeling of like being the butt of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can be honest about that and share that like in a way that flips it to make it funny, other people can see that and like relate to it and not feel so like alienated. And I think that's kind of the point of like the art form in a way,
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a self-awareness that I think comes out of that. And I wouldn't have been able to do the role if I wasn't aware of that part of myself. If I lived in a cloud of ignorance, I would have never been able to even remotely try. I will say though, like even when reading the part, my biggest concern was like, I'm not good with eye lines. So that's like the one thing that I was having to get over. Once I got over that little hump, I was able to kind of get myself into the realm of it. And a lot of the reason why I wanted to do it, John, I remember was I read somewhere that Quentin Tarantino learned about directing by being directed by other people, like being an actor himself. And, him being among an inspiration of mine, I wanted to try that out. And so I was like, well, if I pitch myself to John, maybe if he says yes, I would do my best to give him the performance he's wanting. And I did learn a lot from you about patience. I learned a lot about patience that I've brought into my own work that I don't think I would have been able to grasp had I not worked with you on the film. Like, so learning from your ability to keep it cool has made me 10 times less frantic on set whenever I'm directing a piece. I think there's a day and night difference between when we were in film school and I was making films then to now. So yeah, that's my whole journey. But now I want to hear about. Please tell me, John, you're taking it over to Spencer next, because I want to hear Spencer spout some stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Zach. Spencer.
Hi, John.
Hi. Plan one.
Yeah, dude.
Well, how did that role come about? Was your agent just like so excited that you got this?
Yes. I
this
think
role.
I didn't even talk to him. They just communicated with you and then let me know later. I was like, okay. I feel like we had a band at once, didn't we? The Moonlighter, and we were gearing up with that. Was that before or after we started doing this?
That was before, because we started that band to do the soundtrack to Wash Park.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
And then we started just playing because it was fun. And then we made this movie.
Yeah, we played a lot of shows.
We did. Yeah, it was great.
The band?
Moonlighter. Yeah. So like, yeah, that was great. And we recorded some stuff. That was awesome. The credit
trailer
song
music.
Yeah.
The
You
credit
can hear
song
my
is-
voice in there and John's.
Yeah, heck yeah.
We had a great time recording that.
Yeah. Great. I mean, you're a multi-threat. Acting, music, dancing, I'm
Oh,
sure.
dancing. I'm one lesson short.
So how did at what point do you remember? Do you recall were you approached with this project and what did you think about it?
You'd come with me to the script and you laid it out real nice for me. You're like you pretty much play me. I'm like, okay, that's great.
Your character's name is Juan.
Yeah.
That's the reason I was wanting to know this right away. Is because I remember seeing Spencer play this out, and I'm just like, oh, it seems like a role Spencer's played before, and I'm just like, there's got to be something more to this. Now that makes sense.
Because I feel like John and I, at the same time of life, were kind of doing things the same way, and like having a kind of a confidence about us, but not exactly knowing what was going to be the next move. But I didn't have that look in my eye like I didn't know kind of situation.
Put your trust in thy Lord God, right?
Thy Lord God.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you all were wearing my
Oh yeah,
parts of my clothes.
I have one T-shirt that I still have back here that I should frame or something because it's fun. It's all torn up now, but and
you were wearing my that crazy leather fur
with the
hooded jacket.
I also still have. That's in my parents' house. That's in a vault.
Yeah, that's such a fun.
I still rock that every now and again, and people are like, "What though?"
It's great. It's great. You were living. That was my tent that I was living in on the cot, and you were riding my bike.
Yeah.
Were you playing my guitar, or was that your guitar?
Nope, that was your guitar.
Okay. So how did that
I
feel?
remember doing the scene. I was like, dude, I'm not very good on riding a bike, and it's kind of snowy out. He's like, just go slower, just do it right. I'm like, it's kind of treacherous out here. Like, you ride a bike through this?
Spencer, you never knew how to ride a bike?
I knew how to ride it. I just don't do it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't even walk anywhere.
It's not like we're asked to do it daily.
Yeah. So how do you feel about kind of the arc of Juan, him being this sort of struggling artist who's just like trying to find space in his life to kind of like come up with something to make, like maybe he's just like he's got more ambition than he has, like he's like ahead of himself, like he knows what he's going to do with the idea, but more than like he knows how to get the idea.
Yes. Well, that was and almost pretty real now too, as well as it was back then. Like when you have the idea to make something, and then pretty much just like saying it out loud was almost as good as creating the project, even though you haven't done anything yet. But I'm going to, you see. Almost as good. Like, yeah, I'm going to start this new project. Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear about it. I'm like, you won't.
Let me guess, you're going to go ride a bike around and
Yeah.
There's something very Denver about that, and I thought that was so interesting too. Is like the whole thing was very much like watching it back now, 5 years later, was really interesting to be like it was cringy in ways for me that I was just like, ooh, like that's who we were. That's who we were back then. That's who I was back then. And like, fuck, like I am very grateful that I've like grown past that in a certain way, like when you're in it, you don't realize it, and then watching yourself back on film, you can see it in your body language and your all these moments that maybe to somebody else it's imperceptible, but to you, you're like, ooh, I remember the kind of day I was having that day,
Yeah.
Precisely. I remember I was seeing a couple of the shots. I'm like, ooh, pretty green back there.
Well, it's like we didn't have a budget, so we couldn't afford like artifice. So it's like we're all just naked in this thing. It's like this is just us, and we're just trying to get it, and so there's so many. That's it. You're right. It's like who we were at that time,
Yeah, there's more than one time where I've seen myself on screen going like, yeah, I was really wanting to get home and drink that night.
Yeah.
But there's something about, like, actually Bella said something really poignant about like kind of looking one of the beauty parts of this whole piece is that we're getting to kind of get this rare opportunity to get a glimpse of where we were like caught on film, in a story that reflects the trials and tribulations that people around that age go through, in various different forms. Now, obviously, we don't have an Antlers to guide us, but although that'd be really freaking cool. But
Be nice.
yeah, I mean, I don't want him putting me on a leash again, but whatever. But but the whole idea of like getting to reflect on that 5 years later was like the big attraction point when you told me you were putting this back out here. I'm like, oh, this will be interesting.
It's almost like a home video.
Yeah.
Like
very well
there's
shot.
like something super nostalgic about it.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's like I don't know. I think it's great just for that, you know, and you're right. It's so cool to like look back on like this thing. It's like we're finishing it now, but like we're completely different people than the people we were at the time. And like I don't know, like Spencer, does this feel like a Denver movie to you? Because you and Zach, you guys are still in Denver.
Right.
Like does it
Yeah.
feel like, does it have that nostalgia to you?
It certainly reminds me of being that young and doing the things we would do then, because I don't go down to that area that much anymore, where we shot, and so to watch it is interesting. Like I remember going to so the coffee shop that we're outside of. I can't remember the name of it, but I know it by
Oh, it's Stella's, right?
Stella's. Yeah, that's right, Stella's. Actually, shoot, I was there with Reese last year. I should remember. I remember going there, I believe the night we all went to go see The Master when we were at film school. So like there was some nostalgia there for me to begin with. So now it's a nostalgia point for not just that, but also now Antlers. So and the different areas around Denver that we were filming at, like I recognize the streets now, and you know, like, so there's memories that pop up whenever I'm like driving by, but I thankfully my nostalgia for it is more of an emotion and not necessarily a physical thing. So.
What do you want?
Hello?
Yeah, what do you want?
I just have a question.
I didn't do anything.
I didn't say you did.
Are you fucking with me?
No, hold on.
Do not tell me to hold on.
Look, I found a wallet,
Good for you.
and I'm trying to return it.
It's not my wallet.
But this address was in there.
Does that make it my fault?
No,
Is it your fault?
no, I just found it.
So here we are, two faultless people on a planet full of faultless people.
What?
Get the fuck out of here.
Wait. Do you know Jose Corazon?
What'd you say?
Jose Corazon?
What about you, Spence?
I remember. Well, you lived in that kind of neighborhood. That what's it called? The neighborhood?
Wash
Not
Park.
Wash Park. Is it West Park neighborhood? Jeez. Anyway, so we'd hit those bars, and there was like a strip that you can just kind of crawl down, and we'd do our our production meetings, and then like mosey on to somewhere. Maddie and I would break off, do some shit, you know.
Yeah.
Z and I.
Yep. It was the three of us kind of chilling out and whatnot, because well, Maddie had gone to LA at this point. It was you and me, Spencer, kicking it.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Which that really hasn't changed much. I mean,
No,
I'm terrible at getting back to Spencer's phone calls, but no way. Spencer and I still collaborate. We were collaborating before Antlers, and we've continued to collaborate to this day. So. Spencer's one of my oldest friends in the world right now. So like, there's a lot of people in my life that I've loved working with, but Spencer's the one where like we connect on a tangible, goofy level together that I really enjoy.
I think so too.
So, yeah.
That's great. All right, Abella, how did you come into this project? How did it come about?
I mean, I remember how much fun we had on Wash Park. And one of the things that stood out to me about working on my scenes on Wash Park with you was that like it was so fun collaborating with you, and we would explore things on set that like weren't always just like what was in the script. Like we would do what was in the script, and then we would like experiment a little bit, and you were always so open to my ideas, that it was such a pleasure to work with you. Because sometimes, you know, one of the challenges I've had as an actor is that, and this is kind of why I ended up going into comedy a little bit, into stand up, is because I don't like being confined to a box. And that's most of the time when you're working with the right people, they don't want you to be confined to a box. They want you to bring yourself to the role and all of that. But it's sometimes that's not, you know, there's like not everyone knows how to like play well together and like kind of bring ideas together and in a way that's like on the same wavelength, I guess. So it was always really fun to like work with you, because I would throw something out that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. What if we added this to it? Would you be interested in that? And you were always like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. Let's try it. So I had such a good feeling of like working with you on Wash Park, especially, you know, when we're young and we're doing film school films, it's like everyone kind of has an ego, and people are like, no, this line must be said this. They'll give you a line reading half the time, and you're just like, am I?
Yeah.
Me puppet?
They pull the Lubitsch thing where they're trying to act it out for you, and you're not supposed to do that.
That's kind of, yeah, and it's like when you're young and you're doing all of this, and you don't even feel like you deserve to have these opportunities, like half the time, at least for me, like I was just like, what? Somebody wants me to be in their movie? What? Like me? Like, you know, I was just like so like I felt so honored that like half the time I kind of sold myself out to just be whatever they wanted me to be, so that I could get the opportunity, as opposed to coming into it as a full human with my artistic like input that could add value to it, you know? So I think that was the first project that and I've told you this before, John, like that was the first project that I really got what it was like to truly collaborate with someone in the context of a film who understood that that's the point. And then when you asked me to be, I don't know how, like what inspired you to ask me for that, like to be on Antlers, but I remember meeting with you and reading the script and being like, because I've always liked the way that you write. I've told you this. I think you're so good with dialogue. It's so real, and it's so like it's so natural, and I don't know, like I fell in love with like this character that I felt like did live inside of me, but wasn't somebody that I would ever have an opportunity to explore fully, or have the courage to explore fully in life, you know, including the part about like being a lesbian, you know, like I like my sexuality is complex. It's not, I don't like publicly like claim to be one thing or another. I'm kind of unlabeled, but I do have like a broad attraction, and it's not always been something that I've been comfortable exploring, or you know what I mean? And so to be able to get an opportunity to really lean into that part of me shamelessly, you know, was really important for me, you know?
That's great.
There's something about watching Abella act in this, because when we were talking about the fact that we weren't on set together that much, that meant that your character out of all the other characters was the one that I was kind of experiencing like for the first time outside of the script. And the thing that I appreciate about not just John's script, but what you do and bring to it as a performer, is there's an immense amount of vulnerability that I don't think a lot of actresses are able to pull off. I'm fortunate to work with one on a regular basis, but for the most part, I've tended not to see all of it laid out there the way that you do. There's a moment that John re-edited the end of one of the latest episodes with you in the coffee shop, and you coming out and doing heavy breathing but I got to get this sense of a very, very heartbroken character who's dealing with a lot of anxiety that doesn't get to the surface that much. And now she's in a place in her life where it's all coming to the table. I think we all have that time where we're able to hold it in and contain it. And then at some point it just all explodes. And I had dealt with that like a year or two prior to joining the project. And so to watch it on screen was kind of like a callback to like, man, she is nailing this. Like she is unafraid to look and feel broken on screen and to share that vulnerability with people. And I think it is a testament to your ability to lay into it. Add to the fact that it makes sense that you went into comedy, Abella, because you do have a kind of a natural like reaction to, like a reactive soul to you on that, on the way you were spitting that dialogue in the first episode of like reacting to these 3 knuckleheads around you. To me that signifies somebody who has an intuitive comic sense about them. It could be timing, it could be delivery, whatever the case may be. Like you have that intuitiveness into it. So that makes complete sense that you would have gone down this road now. I didn't even realize you had gone into stand-up until this conversation today.
That's really cool.
That's freaking dope. Like
Thank you guys. Yeah, I still have a lot of work to do to like really find my voice and hear what I want to say, but the process and the journey of it has been really interesting because, you know, what I've discovered with like the stand-ups that I respect the most is that they pull from a place of trauma, and the reason why whether they acknowledge it openly or talk about it or even acknowledge it to themselves, really, like there is a level of trauma that like you've had to have experienced, a mental illness on some level that you had to have experienced challenges around to really tap into the extremities of what it is to be human, you know. And then we put that on a screen or on a stage, we display it in its more extreme version, and people who are on the spectrum of that, because every human is, right, somewhere on that spectrum, can relate to it in its extreme version and laugh at it and externalize it, so they don't necessarily, they can integrate it without having to own it really, and then they just go back to their lives and live their lives. They feel catharsis, like it's great, you know. It's like it's a necessary thing in society. But what was interesting was at that time I didn't know that I didn't know how traumatized I was, you know. I didn't understand like really what I had gone through, and a lot of that comedic sense comes from having experiencing a lot of feelings of alienation, a lot of feelings of social anxiety. So how do you deal with it? Well, you deal with it by trying to create a connection, because you're so hungry for that connection that you're like, I feel alone. How can I make this less awkward, you know, or whatever. And it's interesting because it's like to kind of add to that, I went through a period of time where I was like, I don't know if you guys are like familiar with artists talking about this, but it comes up a lot in like the comedy space. It's like people who want to heal from their trauma or from their addictions or from their mental illness, and then being like, well, I don't know if I'll still be fucking funny if I do that. Like, am I still gonna have that thing that makes me like hungry for that connection, that makes me want to go on stage and seek approval and seek like all of that. And it's interesting because I do think that you can still have both. It's just learning what to bring at what time. But I went through a period of time where I was like medicating for depression and anxiety, and I had beta blockers, and I was experimenting with beta blockers on stage. And I will tell you, ineffective comedic timing, because so much of it is, like you said, it's intuitive. It's an intuitive response to like so badly wanting to connect and wanting to be with people, you know. And you have to have that sort of like, that's where, you know, all of it, it's like we're experiencing, like you said, we're experiencing on screen or in the context of our character what we've experienced in real life that's been painful for us. And that's why it's like, it's hard to watch sometimes going back to it, because you're like, fuck, like.
Yeah. I remember telling John when we were discussing the release of this and him asking me to review it, I'm like, you've got to give me a day to get to that space. But and John is a sweetheart, of course. He made that happen. But you know, I
was like, watch it now, Zach.
Yeah, I put a gun to my head. Do it.
Watch it.
Okay, please. You were not like this when we talked about Katharine Hepburn. I think I've kind of learned that when you have to heal from a trauma that you experience, you kind of learn how to manage it in a way that you can still have that creative outlet that you think it came from, while also expanding on it with the healthier mindset that you possess. So I still reach into a certain part of myself for my creative process, but it's manageable compared to where it was just unhinged before. And like the one thing, Bella, that you bring to that character is like there's something about watching you and Lindsay on screen too, is like I don't think I was seeing other filmmakers or actors doing this content within my sphere in a way that was so honest and real, and you both on screen really hit that mark beautifully. Like it's a story that I want to see more of, because I'm tired of stories about people that look like me. So the whole idea that you brought a lot of your own personal experience to the role makes the character of Cam even more special than it was before, which it already was in a grand space for me. So yeah, you rocked it, in other words.
Thank you, Zach. I'm honestly like, anything that was able to happen in that space had everything to do with John's ability to create a safe space to go there and to put myself, to put myself in a position where I was laying it out there, and it's interesting because it's like, that was one of the, and I've told John this numerous times, like John was the prototype of like, oh, this is why I should keep going, because an acting career is not fun to create. Like, I will tell you that. I mean, it has its moments, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
It's definitely a need to, like, when you're doing it, there's a need to like express, and that's oftentimes what keeps you going. But working with people like John, it's like, yeah,
there's
grateful.
he provides.
I'm grateful for you, Abella.
He
provides. It was wonderful.
He provides a damn good time to allow you to express your own creative whims for anything even not related to his project. He's like, John, you're a very, very good listener in a way that I'm jealous of in a lot of ways. Like, I'm just like, I wish I had that ability.
Well, thank you. I was blessed with a group of people who have great comedic timing, who have like access to their vulnerability in such a beautiful way, to where it's like each of you had like the performances that you gave. There's like moments where each of you like make me laugh out loud, and there's moments where each of you make me want to cry a little bit. I mean, it's like that you guys were able to bring those characters to life in that kind of spectrum, whatever things that we know now that we didn't know then, that we'll judge ourselves for and judge the whole thing for. There's still something like very, very expansive and cohesive about like what we did, to where it's like it's got its rough edges, we're naked there without the artifice, but like but what you guys did was just, it was fantastic, and it was like, of course I'm gonna listen. All I'm hearing is good things.
Excuse me, sir. Hi. Can I have a moment of your time?
For what?
Only the most important decision you've ever made in your life.
I'm an atheist.
Awesome. Can you tell me about that?
My atheism?
Yes.
Well, okay. To start with, there's so many inconsistencies in the Bible itself.
Well, the Lord does work in mysterious ways, doesn't he?
That's bullshit. Have you heard of science facts? Here's a fact. Your Messiah, he never even existed. Jesus is a fucking lie. He's just like an amalgamation of a bunch of different other Messiah figures from different religions that Christianity totally wiped off the face of the planet. I mean, like, stamped out, fucking burned churches, forced conversions, killed the rest, And, I mean, do you see any pagans walking around?
I mean, I haven't, but I was like...
because you guys, this faith shit, it does more harm than good. I gotta go.
Well, what? No, I mean, we, save homeless people and feed kids in Africa.
They also, Inquisition, slavery.
Is that a band?
What?
The Inquisition? Are they...
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. All right. So, you guys, is there any like memories that you have from the set, like from making it, that kind of stick out when you think back all those years ago to us spending those 16 days running around like crazy people, just trying to do things.
Burritos, my son.
That's where that's where I learned. Yeah, that's where I learned that if you're shooting a movie, make a bunch of little like simple breakfast burritos. You freeze them. You got like you can make like in a day you can make like 100 of them.
You could start a business, really. It's a
I mean,
next movie.
Yeah, filmmaking's not paying any bills, John, but burritos, they pay the bills.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it works great. You just have a microwave there wherever you go, plug it in. You got your cooler full of burritos. You're
You need
good
to be
to
like
go.
Videodrome and have a microwave in your chest or something. Have it ready to go at all times.
Yeah.
So yeah, breakfast burritos for me, and then the dark coffee. You always had black coffee, and I'm like, we need to get that creamer.
I remember saying, "No, we don't, Spencer. Black coffee's just fine."
I'd be like, this is yummy. It'll do.
I was like, my pockets. I don't know if I have enough for the creamer. Jeez. Real shoestring. It's like,
Okay,
you want your
bye.
caffeine, you gotta get it. You gotta get it straight.
Oh my god.
I remember it's my two favorite days. I mean, there were a lot of good days and like interesting moments. Like I remember like catching a glimpse of like the set for when the opening scenes and like being like, oh, this is the tent, and then like learning a little bit about your background, John, and being like, wait, this is like based on your life? Like what? Like tell me more, being like, what? Like I like gained so much respect for you in those moments of being like, holy shit, like this guy is writing from his life. Like, wow. Like I was like, and I would actually love to hear more about that, but I don't know if you're open to sharing it, so it's up to you. But I would love to hear more about like your influences and your time like as one, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. It's interesting that like you see him wake up in a tent, and then Spencer, you mention it later on with like Lindsay, you're like, I live in a tent,
Yeah.
which is a great delivery. I love that line. But
Thank you.
but it's like also like it's not really addressed. It's like it's just like color.
It's not
It's
dressed
like
at all.
yeah, like watching it again, it's like wait, we could have like at least said something about it, but. I kind of like that. It's just this.
I feel
that's
like
his life.
you just know what it is. He's living in a tent. You don't have to ask any questions.
There you
Yeah.
go.
It's just a quirk. I love it.
Yeah, I was under the impression at the time, a frugal mind state where it was like, I had, well, I was like in my last year of film school at Colorado Film School, which we all went to except Spencer.
Never went.
But you were
Yeah,
in so many projects. That's where we met you.
Spencer,
Right.
Spencer went there. They just didn't put him in the official registrar or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
They wanted to know. They knew how much that I learned from doing that. They probably would have wanted some money.
Hey, honestly, you just saved $2,000 but got the same education that we all did. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true. It's true.
I
I'm happy for it because I'm not as socially like I wouldn't have gotten myself in the situation where I was making movies with these people like you. I don't know how you did that. How'd you get in that school when you didn't go to that school?
It was
That's
Alex Gray
charm.
got me into that shit.
Yeah, Alex Gray was Spencer's entry link. Because what was the project he had you on? Was
Salvation, it was called.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then that kind of blossomed off, and then Spencer or Maddie put him in something.
Five stages. I will never forget that movie. It was so
five
good.
steps.
Yeah.
5 steps.
So
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
remember.
Guns, Drugs, and Synergy.
Yeah.
Guns, Drugs, and Synergy.
That 2012 student show, we
Wobbly.
destroyed that time. We all
yeah.
did.
Pretty legit. Yeah, I was really impressed with y'all's work, so I was very excited to hear that you were on this as well. Are you still, what's going on with acting now? Are you still acting? I really hope you are. You're very good.
No, I haven't done anything like official, just like I always love to, but it's, if someone has like Zach, he'll be like, yo, dude, come do the silly thing. Like, all right, I'm on it. But no, got a resume in 100 years.
Spencer and I, he's selling himself short. We did do a pitch reel for a feature film in 2019, which is currently on delay right now, but it's a role that would be really perfect for him to kind of show two different elements of him. Spencer's,
I
but
hear
yeah,
you're getting into producing.
Yeah. Spencer has proven to be like one of the most reliable like people to be like, we need like a quick task done here and there. It all builds up to be like, you're a producer at this point. Like that's just so like Brad Haig and I, the guy I do one of my weekly podcasts with, he and I do Black Friday video shorts each Thanksgiving. And Spencer came on the second one to do a parody of The Lighthouse because I was just like, yeah, just come on over here and act with me. I'm going to play the Willem Dafoe part. You'll play the Pattinson part. And then and then last year, because of the pandemic, we ended up doing a quarantine version of Clerks, where it just took place in my garage because we didn't have any like we were not going to go to Best Buy and make people uncomfortable. So we did it within our own safety spaces and whatnot. But yeah, also Spencer's been killing it in the regards of just wanting to keep pursuing these things and trying to find new different things to do. Like he and I are going to work on starting to write some projects together, which I've never written with Spencer before. And I've heard his ideas and had notes laid out to me where I'm like, these are fun ideas. Let's start exploring them. Like they're ideas that require money, but they are ideas nonetheless that we can start working on.
And there's a way to kind of make it a little bit more reasonable. You just having the concept, and I just like to have the most extravagant idea at once, and then we can hone it down from there.
Yeah, he calls me and he goes like, "Can you chisel this down?"
Yeah.
Can you make this actually accessible?
And I look at it and I'm just like, well, I mean, how many vampires do you need?
You know what I would love to do? What I think would be so great is I would love to like do some kind of like funny villain thing with you, Spencer. Like, I think it would be really fun, like something like in the same, that would be like recommended after somebody finished watching like What We Do in the Shadows or something, like
sure.
Something like that. That's like, it's like, I don't know. There's something really interesting because you have like, you really lean in so hard to any story that you like, it's believable. Like the most ridiculous stories, like you lean in and it's like, yeah, that shit's real. Like that's what I love about you as a performer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have an imagination, young man, that is beyond mine. Like,
well, it comes with playing with action figures till you're 16 and you get a car. That was my acting training.
It's why the feature project that we've been working on is one that I want you to do because it allows you to lend more to your abilities. Because I've casted you and asking you to do very very like sincere roles where you do them super well, but I'm just like, yeah, but he's not having fun with my stuff. He wants to have fun. I feel terrible.
Once in a while, I like that idea is good, Abella. Like, I want to be diabolical, but also like this guy's also a loser. What's the deal?
Like, it's interesting because have you watched What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah.
I haven't watched the movie, but I've watched the show.
See, I watched the movie and I haven't seen the show.
Dude, you have to watch the show because like the character development is so on point, and you just get to know these characters so well, and they become like so compelling. I've watched it literally like 5 or 6 times at least, and it's every time I'm just like, oh, I love that, like, because they're so flawed, but it's so relatable and like beautiful, and I don't know, it's interesting. I think villains are really interesting to me, to be like, because we all have that in us, and so much of our society is focused around, especially now with like the advent and the growth of PC culture, right? Which I understand the purpose of, right? It's like we're trying to be more inclusive, and I think that's great. But it can be that toxic positivity, man. It can be a thing. It will get people, and it gets people to be in this space of like everything's beautiful and perfect and curated all the time, and it's not real. It's like we're all flawed. We're all thinking fucked up shit all the time, and we're just like, if we try to remove that from ourselves.
Yeah. And I always have to say, and I have to say in a funny joke, like, that is a joke. If I say something that isn't PC, I'm like, I know that's satire. It was racial satire, and it was designed to like kind of punch you in the balls. But it was a joke. I don't know what to tell you. You know.
I think, yeah. I mean,
Sure.
it's yeah.
It's
a joke too. That is a joke.
Zach, you don't want to say the wrong thing right now. We can edit this, Zach. It's fine.
No. Oh no. I'm thinking about it hard because I do a weekly show on this, so that's like on this kind of sort of subject because so that's why I'm just like I've talked about this so much this week already.
What's your takeaway then with that? Because I'm curious.
Well, I'm of the I will only put it in the way that I've been looking at it through my show, which is I've been going through Golden Age Hollywood with people and looking at the things that were done then that don't work today and looking through the historical context, not excusing it, working on ways to build a better content down the line. My opinion is that we're all in a very flawed, tricky area that we all need to navigate at our comfort level. Not everybody's going to have the correct answer. But there are certain elements of it where we need to be aware of things that we thought we got rid of years ago coming back, but then also recognizing where we can move forward after this. So for me, it's a tricky area and I have a hard time giving a definitive answer because I'm steeped in problematic material because I'm passionate about Golden Age Hollywood. And the problem is that half of it's really racist, but then you have to look at it.
It wasn't at the time, so you just
there's an element of it looking through the context of its time, but also recognizing where stepping stones are made. We've thankfully seen a lot more product come out over the last couple of years with LGBTQ stories coming to the forefront. And what's interesting is Abella's arc in the movie is kind of a stepping stone process for how frequent that is becoming and how accepting that concept is for people on film, where it's not a niche thing anymore. The thing that I appreciated is that it's not a niche thing anymore. It's now very much a part of the mainstream, and there's a fringe outside of it that doesn't like it because they're a fringe. They're always going to be opposed to these new inclusive ideas, but there's interesting things set around the whole idea of looking backward in order to figure out how to move forward, because you can't just move forward blindly, and you can't, like Bella said, live with those blinders on. You have to understand the world around you, understand its ups and downs, which is, I think it's overwhelming at times. And I've moved into a place in my life where I don't actively participate in those discussions on social media for a reason. Sure. If I'm in person with people, I will gladly, sit down with them and explain some of my positions on it. But ultimately, I'm of the opinion of don't be an asshole. So yeah. that's the big one of it all. So
I like that, and I think the don't be an asshole at the base of it really lends to the what I think is the key to our evolution as humans, which is empathy, right? So it's when you're operating with empathy, even if you make a funny joke, Spencer says something that pisses me off, I can at least be like, hey Spencer, I didn't like that you said that. And then he's like, oh shit, why didn't you like that? And then I could be like, well, I didn't like it because it made me feel X, Y, and Z. Now we've had a conversation where he understands where I'm coming from, and if he chooses to have empathy in that moment, we've created a stronger bond, as opposed to Spencer feeling like he can't say anything. Mm-hmm. The law has created a separation, so it's really tricky, navigating this.
And I do think it has to be in person. I think that the veneer of social media has provided a wall for people to live behind. That one of my favorite quotes in the last 10 years comes from Paul F. Tompkins on his Dead Authors podcast series. It's one of the greatest podcast series that's ever been released, period. I won't bore you with the synopsis. He plays H.G. Wells and he interviews dead authors who are actually comedians, and they do an improv back and forth Q&A. And at the end of each show, he'll read Twitter questions. And he goes, I'm not going to read the usernames because people on the internet do not deserve a voice.
All right, what's the scoop? Go on.
Okay, all right. So my bike is definitely in there. And so is a baseball bat.
Baseball bat?
Did you see Bandit?
Yeah, and Bandit's in there too.
All right, so what's the plan?
The plan?
Yeah, man, what's the plan? We're here. What do you want to do?
Well, I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Maybe you should just get a new bike with that wallet money.
That's what I'm thinking.
Then what about Bandit?
Fuck, he's right.
You can't just sit here.
Well, what do you want to do?
I don't know, but I'm tired of standing still or sitting around or whatever it is I do to avoid taking a risk.
What are you saying?
Are we just gonna sit here and let life push us from one disappointment to the next?
No. But I don't know what you're getting at here.
Good.
What are you doing?
Do you want words or do you want actions?
Wait, hold on, you guys. Wait a second.
I want to ask a question that I think is very important to creatives who might be watching. So this started out as a feature film, John, and now it is a web series. I would like to know, as a director, how the decision came about and how you feel about that in a world where we are trending away from the feature film experience in unique ways. It's never going away completely, but there are changes that have been occurring. And I'm curious what you think about that as a young filmmaker.
Well, I'm not that young no more. But
Quiet, I'm in self-delusion. You need to join me.
yes. I can't make the mistakes I made before. They're no longer cute.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, okay, so there's two parts to that question, I feel like. First part, I feel like I don't know how I came about the idea of turning it into a web series, but I do know that I was probably just daydreaming, going like walking around or something, just like thinking about things as you do, just let your mind wander and think about like the past and the future and present, and it all kind of goes everywhere. And you play out different things, and Antlers, is always in the back of my mind. It's this, this unfinished bit of business that was like that. It's going to be there until it's not there. So
yeah.
So I think it just popped into my head, this idea of like of cutting it up, which is weird because I don't even watch web series. I haven't, like, it really came out of nowhere. I don't know where it came from. Yeah. But just the idea of serializing it in this way, it just made so much sense to me. Maybe the deer gave me that idea.
Yeah. It was all the deers. It was all the deers doing.
I feel like it was a deer because it's like as soon as I just got so excited. I like when I went and I found like the hard drive, and then turns out like all the project files on the hard drive are like way outdated, so I didn't have access to like actually changing it much. So it was like I had like different exports of it, so I could kind of
fiddle with it,
fiddle with it a little bit, but not that as much as I would want to in my mind, where I'm like, oh, I want to make this perfect.
Yeah.
But even then, it was like it just felt so much like just cutting it into different things and feeling it in that new container where it was like episodic. It felt so much better. And then of course I was excited by that, and I was like, oh, I can make it even more perfect. But there was that limit of like, okay, so I found a container where it feels good, but it's still gonna feel really bad. That I'm not gonna be able to make it as perfect as I want to be, but it feels right now automatically like the possibility of this feels so much better than it being like weighing down my back of like, oh, when am I ever gonna finish this thing?
Rather than having it be stuck on the shelf forever.
Yeah,
right.
Just being this like whole of like the possibility of it not being perfect is like this horrible shitty feeling, but then like seeing it and having it and being like, this is a great way for it to be, and it's not perfect, and that hurts a little bit for me, I see how I edited the thing, how I directed the thing, how I these choices that I made, and it makes me you know, it made me cringe quite a bit in like making it. And then now that I've sat with him in this new form, it's like I don't cringe anymore.
Yeah, and I think,
it's like I've learned, I met it where it lives, and I love it there.
And I wanted to say that within that it's interesting that you were pretty much enthusiastic from the get-go when you texted me about it. And then from there, it really was just trying to figure out how the release would go, which I'm glad we went with weekly overall, because it ended up building a fun anticipatory time for people we know, but also anybody who might be exposed to it brand new.
Yeah.
And the idea, I think,
I want to hear how all you guys feel about this, by the way.
Yeah.
Real quick, you guys, I'm so sorry to do this, but I actually do have to head out here shortly. As you can hear, the helicopters are here, so it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that you guys want to catch before I bounce.
Yeah,
we want to know
wrap
what
up.
you're working on.
Oh, what am I working on?
Yeah, where are you at now? Where can people find you? What are you doing?
I don't want anybody to find me.
Follow the sirens.
Listen to, yes, exactly. No, so I just had a movie come out on Netflix called Deadly Illusions. I play a supporting role. It was dramatic. It's a for sure, it's a thriller, but it's dramatic. But like even in that, I feel like I kind of sprinkled my little bits of like comedic quirk and timing and bitchiness, whatever the fuck. The director from that was like, so her name is Anna. She's amazing. She was amazing to work with, and she kind of was very like accepting of all whatever I wanted to throw in. It was the same as I felt with you, John. But that's the most recent thing. And then right now, I'm just heavily auditioning for whatever I can. I'm trying to get I'd like to get some indie projects in the can before I really move on to like I would like to do TV. That's my next frontier that I'd like to conquer. Stand up. I'm writing a new act that's based on my raw trauma, which is an interesting place to be exploring. So I'd love to, I think this has been a really nice conversation for me to kind of like integrate everything what you're talking about, like that cringiness of like those moments, those things we were going through at that time that made us be who we were as artists and make the choices we were. And then we watch it, we're like critical and we're just like, oh, it could have been so much better. I could have been, and it's like, you do that whole thing and you realize like exactly what you said. You meet yourself where you were as an artist, and you say thank you for that, because you wouldn't be here with the knowledge and the standards that you have now for your art without those experiences,
Yeah,
that's my deal right now.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's so exciting. Congrats.
Please be sure to keep in touch with all of us, Abella.
Yes, I hope that we get the opportunity to work together again. You guys are so great. It was so nice to spend this time with you.
Yeah.
How about you, Spencer?
Great to see you all.
Yeah.
Spencer, what you got going?
Dude, no, nothing of the sort.
Scheming?
This record. Let me take that take again here. All right, guys. I've been working on just recordings in a band. I'm in a band called Black Chain, which is like a hip hop group, but we do like instrumentals. So working on that, and then Zach and I are working on it's a concept that I have called Detective Midnight, and it's pretty cool. It's about monsters and
yeah. It's been an evolving idea for years, and Spencer's finally been putting stuff down to paper, and we're going to be starting to work on it.
Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, meet Spencer Kane.
Yes, yes, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
How about
fun.
you, Zach?
Oh man, I guess waxing philosophical and staying calm. I do a show called Yesteryear Ballyhoo Review, where I kind of already talked about it, but I record episodes each week with a new guest talking about films pre-1968. So it's not just Golden Age Hollywood, it's also early cinema, and breaking down the plots, the production, the history behind that, contextualizing it for a modern audience, while also having a laugh or two from the modern perspective, whether that be regarding serious matters or silly matters. whether it's trying to figure out the logic of the House of Wax or getting down to the nitty gritty of the movie Freaks, which was a very interesting discussion I had with another podcaster from the UK who does a show called Rated H, and the conversations I've been able to have with it are astounding. John's been on an episode. He's coming back within 2 weeks to talk about Powell and Pressburger.
Abella, you should be on an episode.
Yeah, Bella, you should be on.
I would love to. Yeah.
I'll reach out to you on Instagram. I started following you, so I'll send you a message. And then I do a weekly show called Real Nerds Podcast as well, where we do the more recent films of the week, and that's where I get to kick back and not worry about film history. I can work on like, oh yeah, I haven't caught up on Falcon and Winter Soldier yet. Why is everybody angry about it? Oh, Captain America's doing that. Okay, well I'll catch it sometime. But I'm not anti superhero movies. I'm terrible at catching up with things. And then I am a filmmaker. I did a film called Leather Brown last year, a short film with my frequent collaborator Risa Scott and my newer collaborator Hayden Winston and a wonderful DP named Jamin Tolbert and my wonderful pals Marshall and Aaron helping out on sound design and camera assist. That's available on Vimeo. And I'm working on 2 new film projects right now here in Denver and a couple out in New Hampshire. The 2 out here in Denver, one of them is another piece with Risa Scott about grief and overcoming loss. And the other one is a horror film about trauma that is playing out as an homage to Val Lewton. It's currently in its outline form, and I'm kind of re-going through the Lewton Jacques Tourneur mode of influence in order to. There's a specific movie that I'm looking to homage in a very different way. It's called I Walked with a Zombie, and it's more about the ideas of something happening within this vast landscape of a beach or a reservoir, like anything that could have fog coming into it, but to also really talk about an emotional story. But yeah, and then I talk too much. That's also what I do.
Is there anywhere people can watch Leather Brown right now? Or
you can watch it. Yeah, you can watch it on Vimeo. It's on Risa Scott's page. I'm going to be making a YouTube page for myself very, very soon. So look for that.
Okay. Well, that's great. And I'm, I got a couple projects down the line, whatever, where Antlers is coming out.
Antlers 2.
Antlers 2, maybe. Thanks everybody for doing this. You can watch Antlers on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, John Strelec. It's not like it's YouTube/channel/ABCD.
Yeah.
Just look it up.
Just Google them.
Find. I'm at jstrel on Instagram. You could find it there too. Yeah.
And also on John's page, you should also watch his short film Gunther, which came out last year. That is an astounding piece with Grayson Lowe playing one of the darkest funny characters I've ever seen in my life from within our realm. Like it is, I was cringing and laughing all at the same time. It's an amazing film and an amazing performance from him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll finish up. We'll end the Q&A right now.